strap yourselves in, everybody, because oh boy, we are getting into some dark territory with today's review. Oh, I'm sorry, let me lighten the mood a little bit. Yo, boys and girls, bitches, hoes, men, women, children, whoever you are, everyone's welcome here. It's your boy Peter here, aka Peter Freakout 10, baby. For you guys, episode of the Movie Review Show, with the good movies are always reviewed. Okay, back into our movie review today. Sorry I had to start the review that way, but today's movie that we're reviewing, we are stepping into some dark territory. That wasn't a joke. We are literally stepping into some dark territory today. We've seen horror movies that have went to some messed up places. We've seen thrillers that have went to some messed up places. But today's film goes to the dark corners of the world that only degenerates go to. If you thought Strangeland went to some messed up places, believe me, it did. And it still remains one of the most disturbing films I've ever seen, and I stand by that review. But still, you ain't seen nothing like this. Because I never thought a film would ever go down this path. I never thought a big studio would ever let this film get the green light. And the fact that it even got into theaters is amazing. And what film is that, you may be asking? That film is none other than 8mm. But how does it all come together, and why would you feel dirty? At this point in the video, I would say find your local dealer and get the most dirty tape you can. But no. Don't do that, because you'll never know what's on it, as it could send you to jail. So what I will say is, let's sit back and relax. If you guys like wearing gimp suits, put those on. Why a gimp suit? Because of the movie, by the way. You'll see what I'm talking about. But let's talk 8mm. Sorry for being weird in the opening. Now, 8mm, this is a film made in the year 1999, and this is directed by Joel Schumacher, who also contributed to some of the rewrites. And before anybody says anything, yes, this is the Joel Schumacher of Batman and Robin fame or regret. But I think it's unfair to push him into the Batman and Robin light, because he has done a lot of good films up to that point before the film, because he did St. Elmo's Fire, he did The Lost Boys, which is one of the greatest vampire films ever made. He also did Falling Down with Michael Douglas, which is a classic. Batman Forever he also did A Time to Kill. So I think it's unfair to really define this guy's legacy around one bad film. But where to start with the production, because oh my God, let me tell you, production was chaotic to say the least. And it all starts with the writer, Andrew Kevin Walker. He had just come off the huge hit of Seven, of which he himself wrote. It's unknown what made him go towards this particular area of a story. I guess he wanted to go for something dark, similar to Seven, but he sold the script to Columbia. However, trouble started off the bat, as due to the film's subject matter, finding a director became tough, which also extended to the cast themselves. They went after people like David Fincher, who Andrew worked with on Seven, which kind of surprises me that he turned this down, especially the areas that he went to with Seven. I guess he was directing Fight Club around this time, and he said no, but he turned it down. They went after William Friedkin of The Exorcist and The Guardian fame. They also went after Paul Verhoeven of RoboCop fame. Would have been interesting to see Paul Verhoeven do this. In fact, before Joel Schumacher had even come on, he himself described the script as the most dangerous thing Columbia had ever greenlit. Around this time, Joel had come off the depressing and draining experience of Batman and Robin, turning down the chance to do a third one, as he was looking to move away from summer blockbusters. It wasn't until one day when he got a call from Sony's Amy Pascal, who offered him the job and drew him into doing it by saying the script is dangerous and he'd do it immediately. It was there, he took the job. And signing that deal got the film greenlit right away with a budget of $40 million. And they finally managed to get their cast together that would stomach the film's themes. Joel was originally intent on casting Russell Crowe, but he insisted on a scene involving child you-know-what being cut. Right in the middle of this, though, Nicolas Cage, who was a hot property in Hollywood, thanks to the 3 big action films from the 2 years up to that point, had gotten word of the script and personally called Joel, telling him he was interested in being a part of the film, which his involvement evolved the film above being this low-budget crime thriller into something a bit bigger. You might think the drama would stop there, though. No, no, no. That'd be too easy for a film like this. Because while the movie was shot in Florida and some areas in New York and the Sony Pictures California lot, and the team had fun shooting, especially since the locals were helpful, with Joel even giving a couple of the participants signed t-shirts of his Batman movies, and Joel even getting to choose some of the locations he wanted to shoot particular scenes in. Right in the middle of production, Columbia really started to rethink the decision of them greenlighting the film in the first place. And while not wanting to cancel the film entirely, they tried to talk Andrew into rewriting the film so they could soften the tone. He tried to fight against this, feeling that Joel would stick by him. Sadly, though, Joel took the studio side, which led to them butting heads for a bit while making the film, as Andrew wanted his script to remain exactly as it was, and Joel wanting to finish the film while also not wanting to piss off the studio system. This led to the two clashing and disagreeing over what they should include in the film during the first half of production. Eventually, though, Andrew let a cooler head prevail and left the production, asking to go uncredited as he felt the film wasn't his anymore. Despite this, Andrew has stated in interviews that he holds no ill against the people involved with this movie, including Joel. After he left, Joel brought in writer Nicolas Cage of Fallen fame to rework the script to be a bit more tamer so the studio wouldn't catch as much heat because of the film's subject matter. Shooting lasted for a specific amount of time, then the team found another hurdle getting this film into theaters: the MPAA. Because the first cut they submitted to them gave them an NC-17 rating. They were really targeting the film's simulated and graphic images, resulting in the film to be re-edited 4 or 5 times until the group was pleased enough with the changes and gave the film an R rating. The craziest thing, though, is after all this, the film was given a Super Bowl spot in 1999. I shit you not. Imagine watching the game with your family and then the commercial comes on talking about this violent R-rated crime thriller based around snuff films, and little Jimmy's like, what is that? I want to see that. I'm surprised there was no outcry for that. But the movie was released on February 26, 1999, and it opened to #1 at the box office, finally knocking Payback off its high wave, grossing over $14 million in a single weekend. Domestically, didn't seem like the film did much. However, when adjusted for inflation, the movie made over $96 million. So it was a pretty good hit for the studio, and I think the controversy may have gotten people interested. Despite the movie earning good change, it received negative reviews from critics, as on Rotten Tomatoes it carries a 24%. Critics ripped the film apart, feeling it had no real substance and was all violence for the sake of shock. Despite this, the most surprising thing is Roger Ebert is one of the film's fans, awarding it 3 out of 4 stars while acknowledging that people will be turned off by the film's subject matter, but praised the film for having a sense of slickness to how it portrays the exploitive side of the film with a sense of class, rather than being an all-out gore fest, and even respected the fact that the film held on to a sense of morality that it was trying to convey at the beginning. The audience side does seem to be a bit higher, as despite being in the more mixed side, as it has a 52%, on IMDb it is a 6.6 out of 10, so I guess, again, depends on where you look. Now, I heard a lot about this film, not just based on the making of, but I've had a few friends of mine who saw this before me and talked about how messed up it was and really disturbing it was, and just hearing those, I got interested in checking it out, especially upon reading that it's the writer's 7, despite the fact that he stepped away from it. And I thought the idea was fairly intriguing. Up to this point, you never seen a movie tackle this sort of area, and even seeing the fact that this ended up on the Super Bowl, which was even more shocking. So despite people not wanting me to watch it, I went and saw it. And my God, this film is awesome. However, much like Strangeland, I'm going to reiterate what I said there. I cannot say I have fun with this movie, but it's probably one of the most disturbing and uncomfortable films I've ever seen. I don't know which I find more disturbing, this or Strangeland, or I think it's a better film than Strangeland. I don't know about that area because for me, they're both great in their own ways and they're both disturbing in their own ways, and both are fantastic. And I bring up Strangeland because they're both similar in terms of how the horror is presented because they both really place their horror in the real world or on real world elements in the real world as opposed to making it about monsters and slashers, but rather the monsters are human beings doing terrible things. And I'll touch that area later when I talk about it, but this film goes to lengths that even the most die-hard horror fan would be disturbed by. I'll talk about that later. But with the cast of this film, you got Nicolas Cage from Trapped in Paradise, The Rock, Face Off, and Con Air. You have Joaquin Phoenix from Parenthood, Clay Pigeons, and To Die For. You have the awesome James Gandolfini from TV's The Sopranos, and he had a quick role in True Romance. You have Peter Stormare from The Lost World, Jurassic Park. He was also in Armageddon and Fargo. Chris Barr, who actually worked with Nicolas Cage on Face Off. Other actors, you got Norman Reedus in a small role, is going to be in The Boondock Saints. Anthony Held, he was in Silence of the Lambs. He was the guy who ran the asylum that Clarice was visiting, and he was also in Deep Rising. He's the guy who fell out of the boat, and when he falls at the bottom, he breaks his leg. And even Catherine Keener from Out of Sight. But the plot of the film is basically we meet this guy named Tom Wells, played by Nicolas Cage, who works as a private investigator. He's living a good life with his wife, played by Catherine Keener, who recently gave birth to a child. However, one day he's contacted by this woman named Miss Christian, played by Myra Carter, who has recently become a widow, and while going through his safe, she finds these old 8mm films where on them is a man murdering a little girl. So she asks him to figure out if the murder is real or not. Upon figuring out that the girl in the tapes is a missing person, he decides that he is going to go up to Hollywood and figure out what exactly this girl was a part of that led to her death. And what he finds is a sadistic criminal empire that operates on making money off people's suffering that involves snuff films, BDSM, torture, and child you-know-what. Being directed by this guy named Eddie Poole, played by James Gandolfini, and run by this guy named Dino Velvet, played by Peter Stormare. So with no one to trust or turn to, Tom turns to a guy named Max California, played by Joaquin Phoenix, a person familiar with the horrible people in this line of business, to figure out those responsible for the girl's murder and destroy their empire. Will Tom be able to bring down this dangerous empire, or will the group find out he's onto them and have a snuff film of him being murdered and sent to his wife and kid? I agree with Roger Ebert on the fact that this is not a movie for everyone. Even for hardcore horror fans or thriller fans, I feel will be turned off by the film's subject matters. This is a film that is rolling in grime, grease, and mud, touching a topic as hardcore as this with happiness. But I give big props to Andrew Kevin Walker for even deciding to go over the line in the sand and touching a topic as dark and gritty as this. And I think what will push people away from this movie is the fact that stuff like this does happen in the real world. And it's scary to think that there are people who profit off of other people's suffering. And the fact that some of these people could be just normal looking people who have jobs and hide shit like this that they do on the side like this makes it scary. In particular, at the end, when Tom takes off Machine's BDSM mask to reveal that he's not this weird looking dude, but rather a normal looking guy who you would see at your local grocery store. And just how the film goes out of its way to emphasize how underground this whole operation is, with the unlikable and sleazy people operating it, to the building that they work in being these abandoned, rundown, graffiti-laced buildings that the homeless would make themselves home in. It's disgusting. It's a disgusting and depraved world that no normal functioning person would want to be a part of. But the movie does it in a way that is subtle while exploitive. It's enough to get the message across. And it's not to the lengths of, say, these disturbing Japanese horror films that we keep seeing. Which is why I feel Andrew is a bit unfair with the final product, because his vision is still there. It's not like it's gone. And it's amazing that it is even still there, what with the rewrites they gave it after he left. Because it still maintains the disturbing vibe he intended for the film to have, and what he brought with 7 while not copying and pasting 7. I also really love the character of Tom Wells. Like Roger Ebert said, like Strangeland with Kevin Gage, Tom is a normal looking guy, and his objective is just to do the right thing for this woman and the girl who lost her life. And the fact that it's not even someone he knows, I think makes him a likable lead to get behind. And just how you see him torturing himself watching the tapes, trying to find clues to figure out who these people are, and just how disgusted he is with what he is watching. You really feel for the guy, and even when he gets drugged with the whole thing, it makes it easier for you to want him to succeed. So, especially with how sick and twisted these guys are. And I think that's what makes it easier for me to stomach the hardcore elements that people talk about, because you're following someone you want to succeed. And I think anybody finding the film's themes vile and contemptible should keep that in mind if you're debating on watching it or not. Now, on a technical side, this is an area I never ever thought Joel Schumacher would ever touch. He's touched horror before, but never something with as extreme as this at its core. And being that he just got off directing the travesty Batman and Robin, which, yeah, I'm going to reiterate, isn't his fault, you wonder how he would do here. And he does great. You could tell his heart is more in this film from a directing standpoint. He directs the movie with a lot of mood and atmosphere. His use of lighting in certain sections of the film, like the scene when James Gandolfini brings Tom to the murder site. It's in this dilapidated rest stop, and his combination of light, shadows, and darkness in that moment really fit the tone of that scene. His movement of the camera is also great. He has a lot of energy, like the scene when he goes to the girl's parents' house and he's investigating, and you really sink in who this girl was, and you really feel for her just by how the camera is pointing on stuff of like pictures with her family and stuff in the room, and you really see this is a girl who could have had a good future ahead of her, that she didn't deserve this. Or even when Joaquin Phoenix takes him to the underground lair and how he establishes how big of an empire this degenerate culture is, and the shots of the people and how weird looking they are. Joel really has a knack for his use of the camera. And when it comes to the snuff films, which I don't know if he directed the films or someone else did, but either way, I give massive amount of kudos for either one who did, for really reining it in when it came to the violence of those scenes, while having the right amount of it. In particular, the moments involving Machine, when he's on camera, the mix of the grain filter effect that they gave the snuff films along with the camera roll sound, and just how they were filmed, and just this vicious silence to them really makes the scenes believable. And what he was able to get from the cast and the crew, and how they were able to stomach the film and its themes, I really tip my hat to them. And when the violence is there, and it's not the snuff films, but rather in these small action set pieces, they were shot well. The violence in those moments is really good. Despite the snuff films' violence being held back, it's more on display in these sections. But yeah, I tip my hat to Joel for really finding a way to recover from Batman and Robin and doing this film. But none of the film would be brought to life as great as it was if not for the great cast. Starting off, the one thing that worried me, but I'm glad I was proven wrong about this, was Nicolas Cage in the lead. And I'm going to sit here and say this. I think this is one of his best performances, because he's not playing the typical Nicolas Cage character that you saw in his other films, but he's really held back in this film. He's playing this role with a very straight face. The times he does get loud, it doesn't feel or sound like he's trying too hard, which especially works for the situation that he's in. and just how he was able to work with emotions in those moments in a way that looked like he was maturing as an actor, especially the ending when he comes back home and starts crying about what he's seen, but he's also crying in happiness that his wife and child are okay. It's also great that he took on a film like this. We don't see him take on that many horror thriller films like this, and I thought it was a good change of pace for him. So Nicolas Cage, all around, I thought he did a great job. Joaquin Phoenix as this guy named Max California, who Tom finds working at a porno shop and he agrees to help him. I thought he did a good job. Joaquin Phoenix, I like the way his character is written too, where yes, he's a freak, but he's a likable freak who, despite knowing the ins and outs of this horrible operation, he tries to stay out of it and he's still willing to help Tom. And I think him and Cage play great off each other. So it makes it sad where his character goes, which I won't spoil. But Walking, I thought, did a great job. James Gandolfini, always great to see him, and here he plays a great, despicable human being that you love to hate, especially in the moments between him and Nicolas Cage, where he's recounting how the girl died with no sense of empathy. I literally cheered, though, what happened to his character when the time came. That's how good of a douche he played. Peter Stormare, another great actor, and he does well too as this guy running the operation and talking like how it's a business sort of attitude. He's not in the film too much, but when he is there, he's really good. Chris Barr as Machine, I'm going to say this right now, I thought he stole the show. He was imposing, just the vicious silence he gave the character really makes him a force not to be reckoned with, especially the scenes in the films where he's going to town on these women, which I cannot show here. I don't want this video to get flagged, but just the close-ups of his face and the pleasure he's feeling and doing it. It's this unbelievable psycho side Chris brought out. I thought he did that fantastically. The only person I didn't like in the cast was Catherine Keener. Granted, she's also not in the film too much, so I can get behind her, but I thought she could have been a bit better because at some point she comes off as a bit wooden and emotionless, and her character at times just felt really unlikable. What with her making Tom feel bad when he's doing his job, it made it hard for me to like her, is what I'll say. And when this guy is putting his life on the line, it's like, lady, shut up. So I thought she could have been better. But other actors, you got Anthony Held as someone you find out is working with Peter Stormare and poses as an attorney for Miss Christian. It's Anthony Held. He's always going to be good. Myra Carter as Miss Christian. For what little she has, she does well. Norman Reedus is there for a couple minutes. He does fine. It's just this guy Tom goes for answer. But besides Catherine, the acting isn't that bad. Now, like I said, the film is violent. And in those violent moments, you do get some makeup effects. And they look very good. There's a great usage of practical effects. I didn't notice any CGI. If there was CGI, they hide it really well. The effects in the more action-heavy moments are handled well, especially the big warehouse shootout, the use of practical real fire. It's always great to watch stuff like that. It's not too heavy on special effects and definitely isn't one that you'll be like going into it for the gore, but there is a good amount of violence in there. It's more on the way of Strangeland, which while is violent, it's not incredibly violent as, say, Friday 13th Part 4 or just many other films, I gotta say. But you do get some stabbing, some beating on women, some hitting in the head with a gun. So if you're in it for the violence, there's some, just don't go expecting buckets of blood and gore. So yeah, this is a really great horror thriller, and I'd probably say one of the best films of 1999. If you like Seven, you'll get a kick out of this. I have mentioned a couple of the cons, one of them being Catherine Keener, and I don't like what they do with Joaquin Phoenix's character, talked about that. But those are really my only two problems I have with the film. Because bottom line, 8mm, while not for everyone, is a smart, well-written crime thriller that will make you think twice about an underground organization you decide to work for. So, yes, if you could stomach it, I definitely recommend you check out 8mm. It will take you through a depraved house of horrors you'll never forget. So, when it comes down to it, I give 8mm a 9 out of 10, and it deserves it. Therefore, gets the Alexandra seal of approval. Definitely one to check out if you could stomach it. So yeah, that is my review for 8mm. Next time I will do a review on Blast from the Past, and then I have reviewed The Matrix coming, so be on the lookout for those. I will be editing the next few reviews, so keep an eye out for those. Those will be coming. Got them all backed up on my hard drive right here. And I just posted a part of Silent Hill. For those who haven't seen that, go check it out. But that's where I'm going to end this video, you guys. I will see you guys later. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of 8mm. Did you guys enjoy it? Could you stomach it? Let me know down below. If you guys like this video, be sure to leave a like, rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.